Okay, folks, this is Douglas Pinkham with Pinkham and Associates. We are working on a judgment packet. It's a bunch of forms you need to submit together to get your judgment, to finalize your divorce, your legal separation, or your nullity case, or your paternity case. This form works with all of them. Okay, now let's move right into the form. Some of you can see the form and can see exactly what we're talking about as we're going along. Others of you cannot see the form, and there's a link below to get this form. Hit the link below, get this form, print it out, and have it in front of you while I go through this so that you can fill it out as we go along. This is a super simple form. It's called a Notice of Entry of Judgment. It's an FL190, FL190. Real easy to fill out. It's and the purpose of this form is at the end of your divorce or your nullity or your legal separation or whatever your case is, at the end of your case, and once it gets filed with the court clerk is going to send this back to you. So that's why your name and address and your spouse or the mother of your child or father of your child, the other party in the case, that's why their name and address and your name and address are at the bottom of this form, because it's going to be mailed to you from the clerk later. But you have to provide the form to them. All right, so let's go back up to the top. Just like every form, you put your name at the top, then your address, your telephone number, and a fax number if you're going to use a fax number, attorney for, and you're going to put your own name in there, Superior Court of California, County of, and you're going to put the county in which you are filing your paperwork. Then you're going to put the address of the court. This happens to be the address for the Orange County Family Court in the city of Orange. There's a mailing address, a little separate mailing address, P.O. box for the court. If your court has one, write it in there. Then you're going to put the branch name. For example, in Orange County, the branch name is Lamoureux Justice Center. Then, of course, petitioner's name, respondent's name, and then the case number off to the right over there. This case number will look differently if you're in it'll look different than yours if you're in a different county. Each county has a different way of doing their case numbers, but make sure you're using the correct case number on your form. All right, now the next line, you are notified that the following judgment was entered on, and then has date in parentheses. I recommend leaving that blank. The clerk will fill that out when she stamps all of your judgment documents and it's signed by the judge. If you put a date in there and it's the wrong date or a bad date because it's statutorily not a correct date, then they'll send it back to you. They'll send your whole judgment packet back to you. And I'm here to tell you, here in Orange County, we can get the forms, the judgment back in just a few weeks. They're very good. They've got a very good system down, and they've cut through all the backlog, and they have a new system, and we get them back in a few weeks. However, there are certain counties, for example, Los Angeles, who are taking months and months and months to get these judgments back to us. So if you put a bad date in there, and it takes months for the clerk to realize you've got a bad date in there and send it back to you, you fix the date or delete the date or whatever and then send it back to the clerk, it could be double that before you get your judgment filed. So just leave it blank. That's my recommendation. If you're 100% sure of the proper date, go ahead and put a date in there. But even if you're 100% sure, a clerk will put the date in there for you. So just let it happen is my advice. Okay, so if you're going through a divorce and you're asking for a judgment in your divorce case for the entire regular divorce case, you're going to mark A. Okay, if you are asking for a status-only judgment. And if you don't know what that means, I have a set of videos on that. Go see that set of videos. But if you don't know what it means, then you're not doing a status-only judgment. So mark number 1. If you have already done a status-only judgment, and now this is the final judgment on all of the reserved issues, you're going to mark 3. Again, if you don't know that's what you're doing, then it's probably a simple, and you would. So then it's probably a number 1. Okay? If you're going through legal separation and this form is used to enter the judgment on a legal separation, you're going to mark 4. If this is an annulment case and you're asking for a judgment on your annulment matter, your nullity, you're going to mark 5. If this is a paternity action and you're asking for a judgment on your paternity action, you're going to mark 6. Oh, I beg your pardon. Let's go back to number 3. Number 3 says dissolution, reserving judgment over termination of marital status or domestic partnership. Okay, so you're only going to mark number 3 if you are doing the opposite of a status-only judgment and you're getting a judgment on property issues and other issues, but not the status of your marriage. Now, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, that's okay. That means that's not what you're doing. So you're not going to mark 3. Now we get down to number 7, and that's what I had described earlier as number 3. Number 7, you're going to mark only if you had previously gotten a status-only judgment, and now you're asking for a judgment on all of the other reserved issues, your property issues, support, child custody visitation, maybe whatever else is in your case. But if you already went through a status-only divorce judgment, but all the property issues were left for later, and now you're finalizing all of that, you're going to mark 7. Again, if you don't know what I'm talking about, you're probably a simple number 1 above. All right, folks. Then we go down. Oopsie, trying to mess that up, aren't I? Okay, then let's go down to the bottom of the form. Oh, and by the way, you do not date that under other. You do not date that, and you don't need to put anything in other. You just don't need to put anything in there. Date and the clerk's signature is done by the clerk, so don't put anything in that date line. Now we're going to go down to, there's a box down there. It says statement in this box applies only to judgment of dissolution. The effective date of termination of marital or domestic partner status, and there will be a date in there. Again, that's put in there by the clerk. Don't mess with that. Leave it alone. Clerk will put that in there. All you need to worry about is go down to the bottom of the form, and you're going to put if the petitioner's information on the left and the respondent's information on the right. So if you're the petitioner, put your name and address on the left. If you are the respondent, put your name and address in the box to the right, and put the other party's information, name and address, in the other box. All right, folks, that's the entire Notice of Entry of Judgment, FL 190. So I hope this video has been helpful in helping you fill out your Notice of Entry of Judgment. Oh, one more thing real quickly. When you submit this form to the court with your judgment packet, this is important, you're going to want to submit 3 copies. And on 2 of those copies, you're going to want to put a self-addressed stamped envelope or a name and addressed stamp envelope, one to you and one to the other party. And you're going to staple it to those 2 forms. That's why you need 3 of them, 3 copies. One is to go with the judgment packet, and those other 2 are going to get mailed back to you by the clerk of the court. All right, folks, that's all you need to know about your notice of entry of judgment. I hope this video has been helpful. Thank you.